This is a D6 generation pip. One of those dots on the side of a six-sided die. Yeah, a pip. A short pip. Little something. About anything gaming related. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ. We'll see what's coming up today.
Hey, welcome to another D6G pick. This time, Craig and I are getting there actually for real in Dunkin' Donuts. Right?
Yes.
We are, and we're excited to talk. We wanted to do another, a little achievements.
That's right.
So we thought
it's
it might
been
be kind
a while.
of fun.
We miss y'all.
We miss chatting about what we've been playing lately, so we thought we'd do a little bit of that, and maybe a little more casual than usual, than normal, but... So, Craig, what have you played lately? Let's go back and forth. What have you played?
Okay, so it's been a while, right? So we're talking about a pretty extensive stretch of time.
Could be. Assuming you've been playing a lot of games.
It's been a month, so even if I haven't played a lot of games. So I think the thing that I've played most often, although not very recently because of the schedules and everything, that would be A Song of Ice and Fire by Cool Mini or Not, which we, of course, are now calling Sif.
Are we?
Because that's what all their products are labeled. So
okay, fair.
Sif works great for me because A Song of Ice and Fire is a lot of syllables.
It is.
And so because I had the Kickstarter and it's not even an all-in pledge, it was just a basic pledge. But the basic pledge came with the starter box, which is a decent-sized army for Lannisters and Starks. And then it came with one extra unit for each. And then it came with some neutral Bolton units. So you can get some really cool depth out of what you got for just that $150 pledge. So I will unequivocally now say that my favorite Kickstarter of all time, and the one I think was without a doubt worth every penny, was the Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter.
Really?
Which I really wasn't into when I got it.
I was for significant funding.
I backed it for the minimum. That's the minimum, actually.
Right.
But what I was thinking was it has all the cool Dark Sword minis of the main characters. So I thought, I'll get that anyway. And if I got those from Dark Sword, it would cost me more than $150. But on top of that, I got an awesome game. So I played that. I've played it with you. I played it with your brother and Joe, and then
What's been the universal? I mean, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What did Joe and John think of it?
They all loved it. The main comment is always the intrigue sideboard is such a cool concept that basically. Fundamentally what it's doing, I think, is recreating the fog of war in a way that you never know exactly what you're seeing on the battlefield.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
A unit might be stronger than you think it is.
Yeah.
It might be in a different position than you think it is. And so you're using best knowledge, but all of a sudden using the intrigue board, that unit might jump ahead and attack you, or it might be a lot stronger than you thought it was. So I think that's very cool. In the last game, where it was Joe and Pete against me, they played the Starks, and they loaded up. They had Caitlin and Eddard on the tactics board. So having two, and I had Pycelle. So right there, Eddard and Caitlin are always going to kick the crap out of Pycelle. But being outmaneuvered on the tactics board every turn made it a lot more challenging to try to get the most you could out of that board, while at the same time trying to minimize what they had. And I felt like I was getting my butt kicked the whole game, but ultimately, now they think of it, you score out of the game at 10. Right. So first side to get 10 victory points wins. And I think we played through all 5 turns, and I think it ended up being like 13-5 or 6.
Yes.
Which would have been even more fun because it would have ended before I was just getting brutally destroyed on every level. But so I've really enjoyed that. I think of all the things I've been playing since Gen Con, I would say A Song of Ice and Fire by Simon definitely is my number one. What about yourself?
Nice. Well, speaking of Gen Con, so while we were there, Kurt Covert of Smirk and Dagger Games gave us a copy of Before There Were Stars to review. And we haven't really had a chance to talk about it too much. My family went camping for Labor Day weekend, and so we broke this game out, and what a wonderful, first of all, I'm so appreciative of Kurt for giving us this review copy, because it is a wonderfully produced, beautiful game, wonderful rule book, and it's essentially a storytelling game. Now, there's been other storytelling games in the past with card-driven mechanics that basically give you topics and you try to weave them in. What I think is really brilliant about Before They Were Stars is how the scoring mechanics work. So what happens is there's going to be multiple rounds, and each player is trying to describe sort of a civilization from start to finish. And so there's these 3 phases to the story, or 3 or 4 rounds there's going to be. And in each round, you're rolling a pool of dice and hoping you're getting the right combination of stars. And in front of you is a set of cards that have constellations picked on them that are kind of configured in the stars on the dice. So if you roll a 2, a 3, and a 1, that might indicate a certain kind of constellation on the cards. And so it's got this really cool visual appeal, but then also these cards tie back to words. So it might be mountains or prince or whatever, and then you're supposed to weave these words into your story. And there's enough of these cards. Oh, and by the way, the other thing is you only have 60 seconds to tell your story.
That's neat.
So you've really got to take time and to weave these cards in. So because you're trying to fit all 3 cards into your story, you don't really have a lot of time to just throw any words you want. You really are crafting that story together. In the next round, then, so you might talk about how the civilization started.
Yep.
And then the next round, you're going to roll these dice again, and now you're going to try to talk about the next phase of the civilization, like the Great Hero Arises or whatever. There's these different categories. But what's interesting about it is that at the end of each round, you score. So that each player has a little bag that matches their color. And everybody passes the bag to the left. Each player also has a certain number of scoring stars equal to the number of players. So you have to put a star in each player's bag. But the difference is you have a limited number of gold, orange, and blue stars, and they're worth different points. So someone has to be given your best star, and someone has to be given some of your worst stars. You need to figure out, based on that round, who you're going to give them to. It makes it really hard for there to be a tie, and you really base it on the current round of activity. It was really interesting, great game for the campfire, and a hilarious story in which my oldest daughter ended up winning because the end of her story ended with dragons opening up a chain of Kentucky Fried Elephants. So, I don't even know how that happened, but it was hilarious, and it was really fun. So that's Before There Were Stars. Another camping game that we really enjoyed was Rock, Paper, Wizard, which I've talked about before, which is basically rock, paper, scissors, but there are cards in the game, and instead of doing rock, paper, scissors, you're doing various hand gestures that are mimicking Dungeons & Dragons spells. So you might gesture Fireball or Misty Step. And there's a small board that indicates how close your wizard token is to the dragon's treasure, and you're basically trying to outwit other wizards and end up being close to the dragon's treasure to score points. Cool. Also a great little party/campfire game. So both those games were big hits while we were camping. What else on your list there, Craig?
I would say the next one on my list, Russ, would be Drop Fleet, which we're still playing.
Oh, yes.
And we did that quick review, and the last time we did a pip at this exact Dunkin' Donuts, in fact. And still enjoying that. I think I've hit kind of a ceiling, I guess. I need more ships so that I have some depth of choice, and I can do like the size game that we want to do. But at the same time, my modeling queue is so ridiculously loaded, and I spent so much money at the end of the summer and right at the beginning of the semester that I can't justify what I think I need, which is probably like a $60 purchase to give myself a nice, more broad.
You're on the edge.
So, no, I'm not on the edge. I think it's just a question of timing.
Okay.
I think. But
well,
right
so part
now,
of the challenge, you're in the play right now, so you don't have a lot of time to play.
Exactly.
Anyway.
I don't have time to play or to do much of anything
else. What's worked out for me is that several other players have sort of stepped up.
Yes,
so
I was
I've
going
been
to segue that into you've been able to keep playing.
Other gentleman who's got a completely different fleet, which has been great to see. He has a lot more points than me.
right?
Yes. So I've been able to see what they're like, which has been cool. And their whole thing is they have this extra shield ability, which makes it really hard to damage them while their shields are up. But when their shields are up, their signatures get ginormous. But when their shields are down, they're easy to damage, but their signatures go really small. So the Shitari player has to choose, am I going to be easy to spot but hard to damage, or am I going to be hard to spot but easy to damage? Really interesting tactics. I have been really focused on this game, so I just made 2 more acquisitions for it. I got the space stations.
Oh, cool.
And I got the ordnance. So,
did you?
I did. So now I've got to paint all that. So I haven't a chance
now,
to
did you get a board yet, or did you get a mat yet?
I did, and I got a mat
cool.
also. So did I get a mat? I think I did. Yes. So we have a mat, and my
and
fleet
the fighters and bombers
quite a bit larger.
Yeah.
So and they just came out with the dreadnoughts. I've not ordered mine yet, but they just came out with the super big ships.
Oh yes, I saw
for each
that
faction, which looks awesome. So I am looking forward to playing more of that, and very much that is my favorite sci-fi, ship combat game, which I know is kind of qualified at the moment, though. It's really good, and I still love how it plays. And it's ironic because even against this new opponent, we haven't really finished a game yet. We always end up going like 3 or 4 turns.
It's not a short game.
But it doesn't feel like
it's
you're
fun.
cheaping it out. It feels good. So yeah, still love a drop fleet.
Cool.
What else is on your list?
On my list was a super exciting surprise, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get this game in. And that would be Adeptus Titanicus from Games Workshop.
That's right.
So I played Adeptus Titanicus with Matt. Matt is one of the hosts of Nerd Herders, but you probably know him more from. He's one of the co-hosts of 40K Radio.
Yes.
And so he does get a bunch of stuff from Games Workshop. So he had one knight, one Warlord Titan, 3 knights, some terrain, and the rulebook, and the starter kit that you need to have that has all the other components. And I had a blast. Now you watched parts of the game,
did.
so
Awesome.
you saw the
components are amazing.
the components
the book was
and everything,
yeah.
and the book is beautiful. It really, to me, captures the kind of the plotting sense of these giant, enormous, 20-story robots. Well, not really robots because they've got a crew, but and you've got a sense of you've got to send your repair crews to different places. I think if you're a veteran gamer, I might skip the introductory rule set and go straight into the advanced rules.
No one needs introduction.
I know, and nobody needs an introduction, but. Because to be honest, once you start playing with the orders and the machine spirit now, so just a little bit on the fluff in 40K, mankind developed all the technology you could imagine, but then 10,000 years ago, or actually more than 10,000 years ago, something bad happened and we lost all the technology. Now we have it again, but it's all quasi-mystical, and everybody believes that it's all magic and spirits, and so there's the machine intelligence that develops inside a massive system like the computers that run a Warlord Titan develop a personality, and every time you push the reactor to try to get more movement or more weapons fire, which you have to do on a regular basis, the game is set. Imagine like a Euro game where you can't do everything you want to do, okay, and then crank that up to like double, but then give a mechanic where you can force things, but it costs you, and that's basically what you. So you're going to move a little bit, you're going to shoot one weapon, yay, or you can just push the reactor and you start running across the board. You're firing all your weapons, but then there's a bunch of different things that can happen. If your reactor overloads, you can take damage. If you push the reactor and the machine spirit gets angry, what happens is basically the machine spirit takes over for the rest of that action, and you might charge forward, you might sit still and do nothing, you might fire your weapons at the wrong people. So it's not likely, but it happens often enough. It didn't happen to me once in the whole game, and it happened to Matt 3 times. So it's kind of a cool balance. And at the same time, so you're balancing your weapon usage, you're balancing your shields, and you're balancing your repair crews, because you have to allocate all these different dice rolls each turn to whether you're going to be re-bolstering your shields, and you can't take any damage until your shields go down, and you have 6 shields to start with. And so it's just really cool. It does a really great job, I think, of capturing the whole that concept in the game, and I really enjoyed it. And then the next week, I didn't have time to play because the play had started, but our historical friends, who are usually playing historical games, had pulled out all their old Titans and were playing the new game with the old models and some of the new models, and I got to watch a 4-way game with multiple Titans, and it looked like it was a blast. The only thing was they were playing with the basic rules, so they weren't using all those other cool things, but I think it's a really great... I think the game does what it set out to do extremely well, creating this situation, this experience where you've got these big, giant, plotting war machines going after each other in an urban environment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm glad it worked out, because I know it's a pricey game, but it looks fantastic.
It is.
That's awesome. So I've been playing also. So my youngest daughter and I really like the board game The Duke, which is, I think I've talked about before, it's an abstract game with little wooden tiles. It's kind of like chess, except that each wooden tile's got its own move described on it. And what makes the game really interesting is not only you move the piece, you flip it over, and now the movement for that piece changes when you flip it over each move, but also when they release expansions, they can just release new bits, and the new pieces have their own movement patterns, and you simply swap some out from your bag with different pieces. So we played the classic game real quick, and then we broke out some of the siege equipment. So there's these tiles that are
cool.
siege. So we had battering rams and catapults and trebuchets, and that just made it really interesting. And so we had a great time with that. Played 2 back-to-back games. She really likes that game. She's very good at it too, which is a lot of fun. So a good time with that. And then another classic game I brought out, I guess it's classic, but GKR Heavy Hitters. So I did a lot of painting on it. So I got all the buildings, the plastic buildings painted up. I got all the player mats, which are plastic in my edition, all painted up. And we played a fully painted game. I inked all the little robots, and the girls just loved it. It was a great time. That's a favorite of theirs. And it's funny because they generally get a little bit antsy on longer running games, but for some reason GKR, they're happy to play 2 hours
Awesome.
of GKR.
Well, that's because it's constant action.
It is. There's very little downtime.
It's a lot of fun.
Which is good. What else is on your list?
That's it. I mean, we played a bunch of games that we already talked about from Gen Con. We got a couple more games of Ashes and Orphans in.
Yeah, good.
We played at least one.
Tower of Madness.
I think 2. Tower of Madness. Yep. We talked about, and we. My Roman naval ship combat game at school has come and gone.
Excellent.
And once again, one of my students turned on me and betrayed me and put my ship to the bottom of the ocean. So that's always fun and a big hit. So that kind of wraps up my games.
I have one more. So someone was asking in our, by the way, your last pip, Craig, on the audio drama of 40K was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
That's been great. That was awesome. But someone commented and asked about, they were hoping they'd hear more about achievements.
Yep.
So we are going to do achievement pips from time to time. And specifically they asked about how my D&D campaign was going.
Oh, yes.
I think last time we joined our heroes, they were riding in the mouths of polymorph killer whales and invading the iceberg from the bottom up.
I remember that.
So what's happened since then? We did get a little distracted by my brother's campaign, having a great time with that. My gnome, Nam Foodle Boondaggle, is still doing quite well with his cape of billowing. But they have reconvened. They've gotten back to the Council of Waterdeep. And for those who may not be following along, we're playing The Rise of Tiamat, the second part of Forward of the Dragon Queen. And so a little bit of spoilers here, but not too much. So they've returned from the iceberg. They took out the white dragon out there. They had recovered the white dragon mask, but then lost it again, which involved our first party member death, which was a party member who may or may not have been betraying the party and was therefore murdered by her own party people. She's now back as a new character, a halfling bard. And upon their return, they went to the iceberg. They're all buddies again. And now they're back at the Council of Waterdeep and learning about the new challenges facing the world. But what was interesting was, along the way to the iceberg, the boat they were traveling with, the people started calling them the Heroes of Waterdeep because people had started hearing about their heroics. And when they returned to the council was concerned because some members on the council are not just from Waterdeep, and so they were concerned they would be the Heroes of Waterdeep. So they voted for a new name, which is now the Heroes of the Sword Coast, which is going to be great because I'm going to use it against them. So it turns out that the cult is getting a little bit concerned about these heroes that keep showing up and foiling their plans. So they've set a trap for the heroes. So the heroes are going down. So a little bit of spoiler here, but my party won't hear about this until after the next event. So they're heading down to go visit this activity down in the that's going on in the Misty Forest down by Daggerford. And not really sure, for those of you familiar with the Sword Coast. And there might be another green dragon down there, and that might be the source of the green dragon mask. And they're pretty convinced that these dragon masks out there that in some way are going to be used to bring Tiamat back. And they're trying to capture them all. And so far they've been unsuccessful in capturing them. But now they're going for the green one. But on their way, as they get near Daggerford, what they're going to find out is Daggerford is going to be under attack by one of the main cultist characters. And this guy is going to be related to one of our main heroes. So one of our main heroes has a backstory where it's kind of funny. I was inspired by the latest Iron Fist series.
Oh, yeah.
So in season 2 of Iron Fist, we find out that Iron Fist had
Spoiler?
Okay, well, in season 1 of Iron Fist, we find out that Iron Fist had a brother, sort of, guy who was training with him.
Yes.
And he ended up getting the Iron Fist. Well, my nephew wrote this history back in 4 years ago. He wrote this history that he was training to be a Paladin of Bahamut along with a friend.
Okay.
And in the end, he got the thing and his friend was mad at him and stormed off. So his friend is now returned.
A classic trope.
It is, which is what Iron Fist is doing.
Yep.
So what they're going to find out is he's there. He's now an anti-Paladin, which in D&D 5th edition is a Black Guard, right? Which is someone who's taken a different oath, which works out because he is now he's trying to be a new mask wearer, and so he's trying to work his way up into the thing. So they're going to be faced with him. But in this scenario, I'm hopeful they don't actually fight these guys because they're going to outclass them pretty substantially.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they're going to try to talk them down, maybe do one-on-one combat or some kind of interesting thing. But if they do engage them, the other thing that's going to be happening is there are actually 2 towns inside the Misty Forest here that are under attack by the green dragon. And so what I'm asking the characters to do in the last part of the council here is, should you go in by yourselves or should you ask the Harpers to help you? The Harpers have a small squad of agents who, if you remember way back, I had the players create alternate heroes at level 5, and these were the Harper agents. So they'll have the option of sending their alts down to this other town. If they engage the combat at Daggerford and they start to lose, I'm going to switch them over to their alts, and they're going to see in the distance the combat at Daggerford. And they're going to save.
All die.
So the alts can come try to save the heroes. Or vice versa.
Gotcha.
Maybe some of the alts will die in the combat. So we're going to see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to sharing this with you.
That's a very cool approach.
And I'm shout out to one of our listeners. When I talked originally about this idea that I'd added this flashback with alts to describe what happens to the Drakhorn, one of our listeners is doing that exact same module now. He tweeted on Twitter, so I'm looking forward. Please share with me how that went, and thank you for trying it. I hope it works out as well for you as it has for my characters. They really seem to enjoy that.
Very nice. I forgot how much I missed listening to the stories about the D&D campaign.
It should be interesting. So what about modeling, Craig? What have you been doing for modeling?
Okay, I'm just going to rattle it off, because I've been doing a lot of modeling, which is what I can sometimes do during the play. So I've painted all of the Starks for Song of Ice and Fire. That includes everything that came in the King's Pledge. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but it's multiple units, 2 dire wolves, a whole bunch of characters, including civilian characters, non-combatants, things like that.
Non-competence?
Non-combatants.
I think you people who weren't competent.
Well, Pycelle.
Okay, fair enough.
And then I'm about halfway through the Lannisters. The models are just gorgeous. They're crazy. I mean, Simon really kicked it out of the park. I hope this game's got legs. I love the game. I love the models. I'm really excited. I did get the terrain, as I mentioned in previous pips, I believe. I got the entire terrain pack from the Kickstarter. I ended up paying almost double what I would have paid, but that's okay, because I didn't know I was going to love the game, so I can easily justify it, because there's a lot of terrain in that pack. It is all now painted, including the forests, including the weirwood tree, so I'm super excited to have all that stuff painted, including my personal joy of the whole set, which is 4 corpse piles that are all unique, and corpse piles are great as far as game terrain. If you just imagine a pile of corpses, and they're all different. So I've got uniforms, and everybody's got different clothes on, and it's gory, it's gross, especially when you paint it with the GW special effects blood. So it's all glossy. So where there's headless bodies, you can see where they hack the heads off. And then I just kind of used that and went nuts with it, so that it's clearly each corpse pile is sitting in a gross, disgusting mud puddle that's half mud and half blood.
Of course.
So I was super excited about that. I put together and painted a post-Human Republic battleship that we've already discussed. Apparently I chose the wrong one. Apparently the other build can kill 1 cruiser a turn, and I chose the wrong one. But I did get the one with 2 torpedoes, and eventually I'm going to get a chance to fire the torpedoes, so it'll be fun. To kick up my my Song of Ice and Fire games, or hours, I created a couple things that are half terrain, half arts and crafts. If you've watched on Twitter, you've seen the mission objective board that I created. Russ came up with a great idea. The cards are out there. They clutter it up. It makes it look even more like Rune Wars, which is the aspect of Rune Wars I don't like, where there's game components all over the table. So now I've got really cool 3-dimensional painted objectives that have numbers on them, and they correspond to a board on the side that I made look like a castle wall. And those have the effect of those objectives. And so you can switch that out every game. It's worked really great. We've played it with 3 games now, really excited. And then what I did, which was insane, on my birthday, I decided I wanted to do a special project, so I went and got all the pieces. And whereas, as I've said this before, the graphic design of A Song of Ice and Fire is beautiful. All the components, the card components, everything is gorgeous. The all kinds of scroll work and everything. And the intrigue board, the tactics board is the same, but I kind of wanted to punch it up a little bit. So I got a plaque, a wooden plaque that fits on it perfectly. But then I put 3D plasticard stonework all around it, so it looks like it's a castle courtyard.
That is cool.
Then on top of that, because I got this ridiculous Mantic Games terrain crate Kickstarter that I did, I have all this terrain that I'm like, when am I ever going to need a desk Oh, well, guess what? So now, on one side of the tactics board, there's like a battlefield command post with a desk, and it has a raven on the desk, and it's got a map all set up, and it's got a field chair. And on the other side, there's like a castle scene where it's got a really nice indoor desk and a really nice fancy chair, and there's all kinds of bottles and stuff all over the desk. So now you've kind of like the Lannisters and the Starks kind of have their own headquarters, and all the stuff can move around. So, and there's a big area where when you're not using your non-combat units, when you haven't placed them yet, they're in there like a little vignette.
Right.
So that looks really cool. I'm really excited about that. For Titanicus, I really quickly had to do so I could play, because Matt only had one set. So I built a Warlord Titan.
Ooh.
Took forever. Okay,
That's
there's a
what you said,
reason
a lot of
these are
bits.
like $100. It's because like every little thing is articulated. I mean, you can make it in almost any pose you could imagine.
And there's slots for the magnet.
It's designed to be used with magnets, so you can switch out the weapons when eventually they start making more weapons. Although you don't have to. The whole game actually plays with where you choose your weapons and you pay the points for your weapons and you put them on your card, each Titan's
You don't
card.
need to be WYSIWYG, but it's
So
cool.
exactly, you don't need to be WYSIWYG, but it would be cool to do that. I built 3 knights, the little guys who are actually like a foot tall and 40k, but in this game they're approximately 1.5 inches tall. And also one of the terrain packs, which is all these buildings, and they're awesome modular buildings that you build them, and then you can click them together to make bigger buildings, or you can take them apart again to make smaller buildings, so they can be a different configuration each time. So that was cool. I also dug out a bunch of my terrain that I got for a big urban board for a Planetfall, back when that was still a going concern.
Yes.
And I pulled out a bunch of the stuff that would work for that, but also work for Titanicus. So I have a really cool, and a bunch of epic terrain buildings and stuff that I had from way back. So I've got a really cool board all set up now. Speaking of terrain, Shadespire is kind of catching on here again as like a third or fourth wave. And as a 30-minute miniatures / board game, it's a really cool option for me to have when I don't have a lot of time to game. So what I've done is I looked at the board, I went online, and I was like, oh, look, people are selling third-party 3D terrain elements for the blocking terrain. And I almost did it. And then I was like, oh, I can't do it, because as I spoke of earlier, my painting queue is too long. I've got too much money wrapped up in stuff I'm not painting yet. So again, I went into Terrain Crate and my last Bones Kickstarter, and I got a bunch of pieces, and I made in one day, and Russ and I are going to hopefully play later on tonight, and I'm going to tweet out some pictures of the terrain. I made 3D terrain for the blocking terrain that fits perfectly into the board. So
awesome.
That's cool, exciting. And I also dug up, I had the Skaven and the Dwarves, the something axes, I can't remember what they're called. I had those war bands also, so I put those together, did some zenithal painting so they don't look terrible, and then some dry brushing, and then painted all their bases black, so at least there's some contrast. So I've been busy. What about you, Russ?
I guess so. I cannot come close to that.
Yeah, well.
I did paint, as I mentioned, all my GKR stuff, so I was really excited about that. And I've been painting my drop fleet stuff, so all my, I think I mentioned before, but all my frigates are done, half of my cruisers are done, and now I'm assembling, I still have some, like 3 cruisers and the battleship to do, but now I'm also assembling the space stations and all that stuff. Also been doing some D&D painting, so got 3 more of those figures done.
Cool.
The new official D&D pre-prime stuff is awesome.
Yes, it is.
And so I got one of those for a villain, for actually the bad guy, the bad half-dragon. So that's cool too, so I'm working on that as well. But another big thing I did in August was I cleaned out my whole garage system.
Yes, you did.
And then, fortunately for me, our local gaming store was having one of those, I don't know if everybody's gaming store does these things, but
they'd be foolish not to.
It's a silent auction, so you bring in all your stuff you want to get rid of.
Yep.
You give it all in a little list to the store owners. They put it all out in front of the store. Gamers come in on a certain day and put silent bids in on all this stuff. And they get to buy it for whatever. They give the store the money for whatever they bid, and then you get store credit for whatever they paid for your stuff.
Right.
So the store's still getting half their margin.
It's a win-win.
I cleaned out my garage. I got rid of some old stuff I hadn't used in forever. I made like $350.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Which is an obscene amount for stuff that you were going to throw away.
It is. So so I immediately went off and got, that's why I got my drop fleet mat and some other things. So it's not really modeling, but I guess cleaning up the garage.
I'll count it.
Counts, right.
Because a lot of it was models.
Exactly. So what about other stuff? What about
well,
movies,
I'm just gonna,
TV shows, comics?
Have you
books?
seen any movies recently? I have not seen
I saw
any
the
movie.
Christopher Robin movie. I don't know if that counts.
did you?
It was pretty
well,
good,
it
actually.
counts, yeah.
That was good. And I've been watching a lot of the superhero shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I've been watching this season 2 of Iron Fist.
Yeah, me too.
Which has been, we're about halfway, episode 6.
I'm about halfway, yeah.
So I'm liking it. What do you think of this season?
I like it. It's better than the first season.
Agreed.
And I disagree with a lot of the reviews that are saying... pretty much everybody is saying it's better than the first season.
Yeah.
A lot of the reviews are saying it's better than the first season because they've sidelined Iron Fist. And I don't think they've sidelined him. He's been in all the episodes. He's still a central figure.
He's having a journey.
He's having a journey, exactly. And is in the case of most superhero journeys, you have a super-powered person, and, bad things have to happen to them.
The outfit's there.
Yeah, yeah.
The one scene where there was in a sarcophagus, but you saw the actual green top, along with the white, the yellow bandana.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I will say I am enjoying more the secondary characters and their journeys and their experiences.
Nice seeing Misty in there.
Yeah, Misty makes a good connective character, I think, better than Claire.
Claire's
very passive.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'll take care of you, and I'll be frustrated about it. Yeah. Whereas Misty is just in there kicking ass and taking names and literally trying to sort of shape the lives of the people around her.
Also developing her character more.
Exactly.
Claire just showed up and left.
Right.
Misty's actually developing, so there's a connection between what happened to Misty and Luke Cage,
right?
And now,
I think they've done a better job of tying her into the various different series.
Yes.
Where she's not just popping in, saying hi, and going out, which I think is what you just said. She's in there taking on an active role at the same time, following her own development arc, so that the next time you see her in the next series, she's a slightly different person. And
so what are you thinking of Mary, Typhoid Mary? Name of her.
I don't know. I don't know. The jury's still out, I guess.
Do you like her?
I like the concept. Yeah. I love the concept. Mm-hmm. The actress, I don't know if she makes a clear enough, and this is all, I think common knowledge, so it's not spoilerific, I think, as long as we don't say who she is, because you'll meet a bunch of people and you don't know which one we're talking about.
Right.
But it's somebody with a dissociative identity disorder, I believe, is what it's called.
Multiple personalities, but you can't remember who you were,
exactly.
What they did when you were them.
Thus, the first D in dissociative,
yes.
To quote the show.
That may have been a line in the show.
And I don't think she's doing enough to differentiate the different personalities. And so she's got that. She was at the beginning, and she had kind of that soft sort of passive voice. But then there's been times when she was Walker and had the sort of weird passive voice too. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's an awesome character. Like I said, it's an awesome concept. I know it's from the comic book, so it's not like something new. But I think there's a lot that could be developed there, and I don't know. I haven't finished the series yet, so I don't know if she survives. I don't know if they plan on developing her further.
Well,
but I think it's a neat
she initially
idea.
shows up in Daredevil.
Okay.
And there's a love interest there with Daredevil in the comics, so it'd be interesting to see if she... It would make a lot of sense for her to cross over.
Right. Oh, to go to show up there next.
I have no idea. I mean, she could die this season for all I know.
To me, they could do that, and blah blah blah, comic books, blah blah blah. But I think if you follow Elektra up with, the next season of Daredevil, he has another love interest that's a weird psycho killer girl.
Right.
I mean, if you're talking 30 years of comic book history, smashed down to 3 seasons of TV, it might be a little much. But so I haven't seen any movies, but Iron Fist, that was one of them TV show that I was going to talk about. I went back and watched, I hadn't watched season 2 of The Good Place. So I went back and watched that. Love it.
That's a good show.
Love it. They do such a good job of getting you to care about these wacky, ridiculous characters. Love that. And I've talked about over the summer, I watched Parks and Rec. I watched the whole thing. So that was fun. And then for reading, and we're going to talk about, before we end, we're going to talk a little bit about a new concept that I had that I think we're going to try to go with the hot takes, D6G hot takes. So I did a hot take on all these books that I got from the Audible sci-fi sale. So I'm not going to talk in any depth, really. But I listened to From a Certain Point of View, which is the Star Wars anthology 40th anniversary, so it's 40 short stories. And I guess I'm not a fan of short stories. And I'm really not a fan of poorly written fan fiction, which some of these would count as.
Well.
And so I was very disappointed. I got it because John Hamm does one of the stories. Neil Patrick Harris does what. So they've got some amazing voice talent. For the most part, the stories are I would say they range from pretty good to downright awful. And there's nothing that was like just awe-inspiring. And I didn't like the fact that many of the stories contradicted each other. It wasn't like presenting a unified view of the universe from these different points of view. You had the same character appearing in multiple stories with different motivations and a different history. And so it wasn't like the old Tales from Jabba's Palace or Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, which were all tied in and really tight. Then I went in and I got the first 15 lives of Harry August, which you need to listen to. Okay, it's by Claire North, and Peter Kenny of Witcher fame is the narrator.
Yes. Oh, I like him.
Okay, and the story, I loved it. It's crazy because it's time travel that's not time travel. So it's I've never seen anything that remotely handles temporal differences the way this does. It was fascinating to the point where I was like bending my brain trying to figure out like what would the ramification of that? Oh, that's what the ramification was. And to the point where it's so complex, I'm not sure it was internally consistent or not because I couldn't really follow parts of it.
That's awesome.
But it's really cool, really awesome. A couple times the story took a really turn that I didn't see coming. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And then I am now listening to The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. I'm a huge Terry Pratchett fan. I think you could say he's probably my favorite writer of all time, if not the top 3, but I think I would have to say favorite because he's never done anything that disappointed me at all. Dance with Dragons. And so, or 2 books completely missing. That's another one that the physics and the reality that he's drawn, that him and Stephen Baxter have drawn in The Long Earth, it's breaking my head. Again, I'm reading it going, oh geez, I don't know, does that make sense or it doesn't make sense? Because I can't really. It's basically alternate dimensions. So The Long Earth is in the very right at the beginning, so no spoilers, but humanity all of a sudden, through things that would be a spoiler if I told, develops the ability to step from one alternate reality to the next, and they seem to be infinite and stretch in 2 different directions. So they call it East and West, just arbitrarily. And so far in the books, and I'm in the 2nd book, that's how good they are. And they're only like 9 hours, so it takes a lot for me to spend that kind of money on like a whole credit on a 9-hour book. But so far they've gone... one character or one group of characters has gone past West 2 million, so that means they've gone through 2 million worlds, and I won't say how, and they've gone past, I think, East 4 million in China. So on the American footprint, in North America, the continent, they've gone 2 million plus in West. And in China, they've gone east, and they explain why psychologically they just happen to go east in China and west in America. But and there's no shortcut, so you have to go through every world. And most of them are pretty standard, and they're all like slightly different. So you can tell that they're on a tree of probability, and it's very cool. And I'm not going to ruin any of you run into occasionally these worlds where something absolutely bizarre has happened, and they call that a Joker world, where it's like everything is within a range of normalcy, and then there's this wacky like ice, like a world
cows
that's
are presidents.
Like yeah, maybe. I mean, kind of. Maybe not cows, but yeah, okay. And so I loved it. Love it. It's great. It does not have any of Terry. I mean, I think they were published after his death, so I don't know how much of it is him. I'm not hearing a lot of his voice, in particular the Discworld voice that I've come to love. But the story is great, the characters are great, and I'm really enjoying it. So that brings me to full closure. What about you?
Oh, well, I have 3 things I need to talk about.
Okay.
So first of all, if you have not seen the Dragon Prince series on Netflix, you need to drop everything and go watch this. So it's an animated series by the guys who did Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is really good. Like, I don't want to oversell it, but like Game of Thrones political intrigue good in an animated series. Really good stuff. Amazing characters. And I just have to tell you, you have not lived until you've seen a moon elf with a Celtic accent. Oh my God. This show is so cool, so
What's
full
it
of
called?
character. The Dragon Prince.
Dragon Prince.
The Dragon Prince. It has got just the right balance of like the comedy.
And it's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. They dropped the whole first season as usual. It's got just the right balance that the Last Airbender had with like the silly, sort of campy fun, but then the deadly serious sort of thing happening right after it. Awesome combat, awesome concepts, just amazing, amazingly internally consistent. Like a character gets bitten, and like you see the marks on their animation like through the two next three episodes. Like it's just really, really good. Animation style's amazing. I can't just go watch this show.
Cool.
Dragon Prince is amazing. The second thing I wanted to talk about was I'm reading the new Geralt Carriger book, the Custard Protocol series, book 3 now. Still love her writing style.
Yeah.
She's so wonderful. I love the fact that I love the character style where like a guy will walk up deck and the captain will yell at him, Percy, what are you doing? They're shooting at us and you've got the wrong hat on for this kind of weather. It's like that kind of thing. It's just wonderful. I just love her stuff. She's such a great writer. So I'm really enjoying that. And then the third thing is we started playing, my girls and I, actually my youngest daughter already solved it, but the new Spider-Man game.
Oh, I've seen you tweet about that.
Oh my God, this might be the best, well, it's definitely the best superhero video game I've ever experienced. But it so captures Spider-Man, but it also so captures the Marvel's New York in a way that's, like, New York is almost a character in this game in a way that's really, really well done. And it's one of those open world games where you kind of explore, but there's also a really cool, compelling story. They tweaked elements of the world just enough to make it work. So, like, there's no origin story. Peter Parker's been Spider-Man now for at least 8 years. In fact, the opening boss battle is Kingpin right in the beginning. And then it's not really a spoiler, but the very first thing that happens is you take out Kingpin, and then sort of his being removed causes other things to sort of boil up, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, Peter no longer works at the Daily Bugle. He now works for Dr. Octavius, who they're working on this experimental stuff, and he hasn't become Doc Ock yet. So, you, of course, as a Spider-Man fan, you see this coming, but Peter doesn't know yet. Meanwhile, MJ has become a reporter at the Daily Bugle, which is interesting. They have already fallen apart, and they're already broken up, but now part of the story of the game is trying to get back with MJ. Okay. Meanwhile, J. Jonah Jameson, and this is brilliant, no longer works at the Bugle. He is a right-wing radio talk show host that Spider-Man listens to throughout the city, so when you do different things, JJ will come on the radio and then talk about it. And like it's great because some callers come in and the caller will be like, hey JJ, I have to say, I think you got Spider-Man wrong. He just saved my father from a bugger last night. And he's like, who's my call screener? You're fired. Fire yourself. He's like, this is great. It's like, it's just really, really well done. Cool. Awesome. But the combat, the moves, the way he swings through the city, I don't really know. The lines, it's better than any Spider-Man movie, even Homecoming. It just really, really nails it. Cool. But also, like, they've got all the components in there, so you can unlock all the various Spider-Man suits for even the most obscure issues of Spider-Man, which you can actually unlock the suit from the Infinity Wars. And when you do, it unlocks the abilities of the suit, so he gets the 4 claws, like the forearms. Cool. So, like, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just really, really well done. The web combat, I can't say enough good things about this game. It's definitely one of my favorite PS4 game right now, definitely. So, Spider-Man... Marvel's Spider-Man, I think it's called. Cool. On PS4. It's awesome. Awesome. So, phew. Is that everything, Craig? Is that achievement?
No, it's not everything.
Oh, no, you got new things.
Right? Okay, so here's the theory, and we've talked about this for a while, how we want to try to go forward and what we want to try to do for our patrons and those folks that have stuck with us.
Yes.
And so I think what we've come across is that a patron of any level can join us whenever we do live recordings.
Which I'm trying to figure out how to do that from
I screwed that up. I screwed it up. I admit that. Last time we tried, or last week, I screwed that up. But we'll do that. And so that's a supporter of any level will be able to join us for any of those. A supporter of $2 or more is going to continue having access to the Lost Chapters, which is hundreds of hours of additional material from the original D6G, in case you hadn't listened to those before.
You got things to catch up on.
And you've still got a lot of time to catch up. Also, we're going to try to do these things that I'm calling D6G hot takes, which think of it as a 15-minute kind of when we're super excited about something that just happened, talking about that. And sometimes it might be just me. Sometimes it might be just Russ. If
me on the latest video game, Craig on the latest book. Who knows?
Well, I'm trying not to do books. I tried to do books with the first one, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this because it's a spoiler, and I don't want to like lock people out of these.
Have spoilers.
Well, the Lost Chapters were longer and few. So if there is going to be a hot take that's going to have spoilers in it,
maybe the first 10 minutes has no spoilers, and the last 5.
That after a warning, like I am now going to make a sound. Could be because the whole point of the first hot take was supposed to be somebody explain to me how the physics of the long world, of the long Earth, and the first 15 lines of Harry August work, but I didn't give away anything instead. So that's going to be, and I'm hoping to do one of those fairly often. Like, I mean, my original goal was once a week. I don't know if there's going to be enough to support that, but hopefully...
There's enough new things coming out.
Yeah, I mean, close to that, hopefully. And so that's going to be something that you're going to start showing. So $2 or more will get you that. And then what about the written support documents? I forget where those land.
That was patrons only.
Any patron level. So
Craig wrote the script up for his last PIP that had the battle report, and that went out to patrons only. On Patreon.
Okay, yeah. So the last PIP that was the audio battle report, right, went out to everybody. That's just a public thing. Yep. Once again, we're putting out the majority of our stuff for free, and then I put the script that I actually wrote, that I built the report around. We uploaded that to Patreon for patrons only. So, and there will be occasionally those as well. I think we'll probably, when one of us does a game aid, like we'll probably put that up there for people and things like that. So there will be occasional written material that you can get, plus the audio stuff, including the hot takes,
right?
And then the Lost Chapters will still be available for the $2. So that's where this is us still trying to churn this stuff out and try to keep it going. And thank you, those of you who have been supporting us and continue to support us. Thank you very much for that.
We really do appreciate it.
Yeah. And now that's achievements.
That is achievements.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@the d6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.